Welcome back to section 3 of the Rolling Group Workshops online. Okay, so moving on to task 2 for today. I'd now like to encourage you to turn to page 4 in the handouts and listen to the following YouTube video to answer the questions regarding Jane's panic attack. Unfortunately, you won't be able to access the link directly from this workshop recording, but you can find it under the section Resources, which is underneath the third recording on the website. I would suggest pausing and clicking on the YouTube link, making some notes as you listen to the video, and then returning to this recording to continue with the workshop. And once you've finished the first video, just moving on to the second one. So understanding how to deal with panic attacks and continuing to make notes on your handout. Okay, so hopefully you've had a bit of time to go through the videos and jot down some notes. Let's go through it together now. So thinking in line with the CBT model and its components. So we've got thoughts, feelings, physical symptoms, and behaviours. So what do we think set off Jane's panic attack? What do we think the trigger was, or the situation? And what did Jane think was happening to her? So what was going through her mind? What were her thoughts? And what bodily sensations was Jane experiencing? So what physical changes did she notice in her body? And how did this make Jane feel? What emotions was she experiencing? And how did this make Jane act? What did she do? How did she respond? What were her behaviours, in other words? And finally, what was the lasting impact on Jane's life from her panic attacks? The vicious cycle associated with panic can help us understand what is keeping the panic going. As we can see from the diagram, the trigger for Jane was being in a supermarket. Being in a crowded place like this can be a common cause for panic attacks and a feeling of wanting to escape or run away. For Jane, it led to thoughts such as, I'm getting very hot, I'm going to faint, I'm going to have a heart attack, how will I get out, and I'm losing control. So a lot of upsetting thoughts and worries racing through Jane's mind. And how do you think having these thoughts made Jane feel emotionally? As we can see, she felt quite nervous, scared and embarrassed. And what started happening to Jane physically? And we can see that her breathing became faster, she felt sweaty, she experienced heart palpitations and felt nauseous. So how do you think these physical symptoms made Jane feel emotionally? Perhaps even more scared and embarrassed, leading to even more worrying thoughts racing through her mind. Perhaps thoughts such as, I'm going to make a fool of myself. And this probably led to even more palpitations and anxiety. When Jane experienced these physical symptoms, it looks like she catastrophically misinterpreted them for a health condition rather than accepting them as anxiety-related symptoms. So when she started to have heart palpitations and she thought she might have a heart attack and die or faint, which consequently would have led to more heart palpitations and more anxiety. This process of catastrophic misinterpretation is what makes a panic attack and keeps the panic cycle going. It's like a false alarm going off. As you can imagine, if you catastrophically misinterpret the physical symptoms as a heart attack and the possibility of dying, you're most likely going to want to get out of the supermarket as soon as you possibly can. And the next time you enter this busy supermarket, you might shop very quickly, you might even carry water with you and grip onto the trolley very tightly to help you cope and get through the situation. But how helpful do we think those behaviours really are? In fact, these behaviours are what we call safety behaviours and can also keep the cycle of panic going. People experiencing panic and anxiety will often change their behaviour to feel safer and try to reduce or prevent further anxiety. For example, carrying items such as medication, water, or a cell phone that the individual believes will ensure their safety. Having a companion, so a family member or friend, accompanying them to places. Avoiding physical activities, such as exercising or sex, that might trigger panic-like feelings. Avoiding certain foods, for example spicy dishes or beverages such as caffeine or alcohol, because they might trigger panic-like symptoms. seeking reassurance from others that they are okay or normal, healthy or safe. Sitting near exits or bathrooms so that they can escape easily. Using distraction to avoid feeling anxious or thinking about anxiety. Engaging in excessive research prior to taking a trip, starting a new job or buying something, all to ensure nothing will go wrong. The problem with safety behaviours is that although they help you to feel safer and reduce levels of anxiety in the short term, unfortunately they keep the problem going long term by giving the person a reason to believe that there is something to be fearful of or that something will go wrong. You also begin to associate your ability to get through the situation with the dependence on these safety behaviours, rather than learning that you can get through the situation on your own without distraction and without anything bad happening to you. The important thing to bear in mind is that panic attacks are not harmful. They may feel very intense and scary, and as if something bad is going to happen to you, but remember the evolutionary purpose and survival mechanism behind the fight or flight response. If anything, it's the body trying to keep you alive.